is Histories and Mysteries. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jessica. And on this week's episode, we're going to do things a little differently. I'm going to go first because my story is super awful.
Yeah.
And Ashley wants to kind of finish it off on a happier note.
I mean, mine's also a murder, but it's a little bit more.
But it's a ghosty.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and it's old. It's like really old. So
Yeah. And I've done some really horrible people.
Yeah.
During our episode, like our podcast. And like the second line in, I wanted to stop.
Yeah.
But it took me about 20 minutes to figure out what I was going to research. So I decided to not
Just
back
forge
out.
through.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I regret all of it.
Did we say what we were doing?
No.
Oh.
So to preface, I just kind of did like a more of an overview of it because it was so awful and I didn't want to research a lot.
Yeah.
But I am doing the murder of Sylvia Likens.
Yeah, it's bad.
I had never heard of it. And I am really dreading this because I had to research it. I am now speaking about it out loud. And then I need to edit it.
Yeah.
So I have to hear this awful atrocity 3 times.
Jessica messaged me and she's like, "Hey, have you done Sylvia Likens?" And I was like, "Oh no, Jessica, don't do it." Because I think as far as the podcast goes, I generally do more of the murdery, bad, like really dark stuff. And even that one I haven't done yet for a reason.
And it's funny because when I do true crime, I feel like I really gravitate towards the truly awful.
Yeah, when you do it up.
I'm dreading my choices. But anyways, Ashley is going to then talk to us about the Green Briar ghost.
Yes, this one's pretty like women. Like, so I listen to a podcast called True Crime Obsessed, and they always say let the women do the work. This is a case of let the women do the work. So we'll start off with Jessica's horrible story, and then we'll go into mine a little bit more lighthearted. But definitely a trigger warning episode. This includes some pretty bad torture and murder, obviously, of a young girl. So trigger warning of all the triggers.
Yeah, it's not great.
No.
So
let's dive in.
Amazing. Happy holiday season, everybody. Okay, let me just get this over with. So I used All That's Interesting, of course, and True Crime Edition. So scroll all the way to the top. I don't know why I put all of my links at the very bottom, but whatever. So we will begin. While her parents were away in 1965, 16-year-old Sylvia Likens was left to live with a family friend, Gertrude Banaszewski.
Your brain's like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah, my brain's like, you've been dealing with a very sick toddler the last couple days. We are off duty. But Sylvia would unfortunately never see her parents again. Because both of Sylvia's parents worked for a carnival, they were frequently on the move. Her father, Lester, had 5 children to support and just an 8th grade education. Nothing wrong with that. So they struggled to meet it. They struggled to make ends meet.
When you said meat, I was like, yeah, meat ends meat. Yeah, that's right. So don't worry.
Struggled to meet ends meet. Jenny, who was Sylvia's sister, had a polio related limp and was very reserved. Sylvia was characterized as being attractive despite missing her front tooth. She was more self assured and went by the name of Cookie,
It's
which
so
is
cute.
adorable.
Yeah.
Lester Likens made the decision to pick up the carnival again in July 1965 while his wife was doing time in prison for theft.
Aw.
Danny and Benny, Sylvia's siblings, were left in the custody of their grandparents. Sylvia and Jenny were sent to reside with a family acquaintance named Gertrude Baniszewski because they didn't really have any other options. And I'm not sure why they're going to go with the grandparents. I'm assuming it's financial reasons.
Probably just too much for
Yeah.
kids that they, and I mean, they're probably older, right? Like
Yeah.
4 kids is probably way too much for them to handle.
Oh, exactly. Especially in the 60s.
Yeah.
Gertrude had 7 of her own children to support in her rundown home and was just as destitute as the Likens. By charging her neighbors a few bucks to iron their clothes, she made a small profit on the side. She had already gone through several divorces, some of which had left her the victim of physical abuse, and she had used excessive amounts of prescription medication to treat her chronic depression. She was not fit to care for 2 teenage girls or her own children,
Or like
but
anything.
yeah, herself included.
Yeah.
But the Likens believed they had no other option. And after this next line, I don't really think that's the case because when left Jenny and Sylvia with the Baniszewskis, he told her straighten them out.
Okay.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
told her to straighten the girls out.
I'm sure he did not mean what she did though.
No, however, I feel like because he said he had no other option, but I feel like he very methodically
Like a
placed
more
them in her care.
strict.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, but he was also paying them $20 a week. So
Mm.
Sylvia and her sister were treated rather well during their first 2 weeks, despite the fact that Gertrude's oldest daughter, Paula, who was 17, frequently appeared to disagree with Sylvia. Then Jenny and Sylvia's father's paycheck was late. So the $20 he was meant to pay was late. Gertrude yelled at Sylvia and Jenny, quote, I took care of you 2 bitches for 2 weeks for nothing, unquote. Sylvia was taken into a room by her arm as the door was shut. Jenny had no choice but to listen from outside the door while her sister screamed. The following day, the money showed up, but the torture had already begun. So, this is where it all gets really, really bad. And it doesn't stop.
No.
One day in August, Jenny and Sylvia were given 15 paddle blows since Gertrude's oldest daughter, Paula, had informed her that the 2 girls had overeaten. Soon after, Gertrude started abusing Jenny and Sylvia in broad daylight. Gertrude, a fragile woman, used a heavy paddle and a belt made of thick leather from a former policeman she used to be married to. Paula filled in for her mom when she was too worn out or too weak to correct the girls herself. But Sylvia quickly started to be the target of the abuse. Jenny was compelled to participate by Gertrude, or else she would have to bear the brunt of the abuse in place of her sister. And I'm not making excuses for Jenny, But we do need to also remember that she was disabled
Mm-hmm.
from polio, right? So I don't know. I just feel like for some reason it doesn't excuse the behaviors, but I understand
I do too.
her fear, right?
Well, and I'm sure that Sylvia, well, maybe not, but I would think that Sylvia like told her to so that she didn't have to bear the brunt of it because she was already disabled.
Yeah, probably. It's awful. Either
Mhm.
way.
Yeah.
Due to them eating a sandwich at a park, the girls were given a scalding hot bath, to which Sylvia fainted from the heat.
Mm.
Due to this, Gertrude decided the best solution would be to slam Sylvia's head against the cast iron tub to wake her up. Sylvia's fingertips were burned when Gertrude accused the youngster of stealing from her. She brought her to a religious event where she was force fed free hot dogs till she became sick. She then made her eat her own vomit as a form of punishment for throwing up good food because she was wasting. She allowed, and in fact encouraged, her own children to participate in Sylvia and her sister's abuse.
Mhm.
Sylvia was subjected to karate practice by the Banaszewski children, who slammed her into walls and onto the floor. They threw her downstairs, cut open her skin, and rubbed salt into her wounds, using her skin as an ashtray. She was frequently cleansed in scalding hot baths after this. And I don't know if I mentioned it later, but I will mention it now. During her autopsy, there is a wound. I think they said that there was like a hole on her wrist and it was all the way down to her bone. And they thought that it was from them putting their cigarettes out on her wrist.
Mm. Poor thing.
Yeah. Oh, this part. While Paula stomped on Sylvia's genital area, Gertrude delivered sermons on the perils of sexual immorality. Sylvia was accused of being pregnant by Paula, who was actually the one that was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And Sylvia's genitalia were mutilated. John Jr., Gertrude's 12-year-old son, took great pleasure in making the girl lick his younger siblings' dirty diapers.
Oh.
The Banaszewski kids watched as Sylvia was forced to strip and stuff an empty Coca-Cola bottle into her genital area.
Mm.
Oh, yeah. Sylvia was also battered so badly that she was unable to go to the bathroom on her own. Gertrude made the decision that Sylvia was no longer fit to live with the rest of her children after she wet her mattress because she was now incontinent.
Yeah.
So, the most logical thing was to lock her in the basement with no access to a bathroom or any food. To recruit the neighborhood children to participate in the beatings, Gertrude propagated every tale that she could think of.
Mm-hmm.
She informed her daughter that Sylvia had referred to her as a whore, and so Paula had her friends come over and beat Sylvia up for it. Later during the trial, some of the kids were open about how Gertrude had recruited them. One teenage girl named Anna Cisco recalled how Gertrude told her that Sylvia had been saying, quote, "She said my mother went out with all sorts of men and got $5 for going to bed with the men," unquote. Anna didn't bother to check and see if it was true. None of them did.
Yeah, they didn't care.
No. Gertrude said, quote, "I don't care what you do to Sylvia," unquote. She basically just like welcomed people over to her house to watch Sylvia get kicked, punched, and thrown to the ground by Anna. Stupid prostitute.
I just don't understand how you can be so evil. Like, I was gonna say how you can hate someone so much, but I don't even think she hated her. I think
And
she's just evil.
Yeah. And the astonishing thing is, how do you recruit a whole neighborhood? You know?
Yeah, like you think one of the kids would be like, hey, this isn't okay, and tell an adult or something. It's just
We
crazy.
will we will kind of get to that.
Okay.
Gertrude revealed Sylvia's status as a prostitute falsely to
Mm-hmm.
her own children. She then used a hot needle to etch the words, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it," into Sylvia's abdomen with the assistance of her daughter, who was 11, and a neighborhood boy named Ricky Hobbs. They also heated a metal rod and tried to burn an S into her left breast for Sylvia, which was still visible at her autopsy, but it looked more like a 3. She was then paraded around the neighborhood, Gertrude stating she received the marks at a sex party. Diana, Sylvia's older sister, tried to see her and Jenny in Gertrude's care at one point, but was turned away at the door. Later, Jenny revealed how Diana smuggled food into the basement where Sylvia was hidden. The occurrences had also been reported by a neighbor to a public health nurse who entered the house but could not find Sylvia since she was imprisoned in the basement, and came to the conclusion that everything was fine.
Mm.
Additionally, Banaszewski succeeded in persuading the nurse that she had sent Jenny and Sylvia away, or that they had run away. Other next door neighbors were allegedly aware of Sylvia's abuse. They had seen Paula strike the girl twice in the Banaszewski home, but claimed they did not report the abuse because they feared for their own lives. Jenny was threatened, bullied, and beaten by both the Banaszewskis and the neighborhood girls if she went to the authorities.
Ugh.
Sylvia's what?
I was saying, like, I get why Jenny didn't go to the
Mm-hmm.
authorities. Like, I get that, but and I can even see where Gertrude's kids didn't, because that's, I mean, that's their mom, probably similar, but the other kids in the neighborhood, I just don't get.
I know. Also, sidetrack. Where did your shelf go?
Oh, we got rid of it.
Oh,
It was like an old desk, and we got this new desk, and then that's Cody's. He got a stand-up desk for,
oh,
because
nice.
his job's mostly going to be work from home. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Cool. Sylvia's abuse continued unabated. In fact, it was aided by everybody around her. Sylvia told her sister 3 days before, "I'm going to die. I can tell."
Mm. I can't imagine knowing that.
Yeah.
But at that point, I
Sylvia,
mean, she's probably in such pain.
well, she's not able to go to the bathroom on her own. Like, you kind of know that it's coming, right?
Yeah.
Sylvia was forced to write a note in which she informed her parents that she was leaving because Gertrude could see it too. Sylvia was also made to put in writing that she had met up with a bunch of boys, performed sexual favors for them, and that they had later beaten and maimed her. A short while later, Sylvia overheard Gertrude telling her children that she was going to take Sylvia to a forest and leave her there to die. Sylvia tried one last desperate escape. Before Gertrude caught her, she was able to escape at the front door, but she couldn't have made it very far because she was incredibly weak from all of her injuries.
Yeah.
Sylvia was beaten with a curtain rod by Gertrude and a neighbor boy named Coy Hubbard until she passed out. When Sylvia regained consciousness, Gertrude stomped on her head. He's sick. By October 26th, 1965, Sylvia had passed away from a brain hemorrhage, trauma, and starvation. She was barely able to move her limbs, and she couldn't speak after 3 months of malnutrition and torment. The 16-year-old Indiana girl's autopsy read like a scene from a scary movie. She had retracted skin, gaping wounds that had nearly reached the bone, and severe internal traumas. At one point, there was a man in the neighborhood who reported the abuse to Sylvia's school, but Gertrude obviously said it was all lies, and the school just didn't follow up.
Ugh.
To add to this horrible nightmare, the neighborhood kids would pay 5 cents to see Sylvia for themselves, battered and locked up in the basement. Gertrude maintained her lie even after the cops arrived on scene. She explained that Sylvia had been playing with some guys when she was attacked and killed in the woods with the words, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it," carved into her body. However, Jenny seized her opportunity. She muttered, like, as soon as she was close enough to a police officer, she said, "Get me out of here and I'll tell you everything." So, like, could you imagine seeing your sister go through that?
No.
Gertrude, Paula, Stephanie, and John Baniszewski, Richard Hobbs, and Coy Hubbard were all arrested for the murder of Sylvia Likens. Additionally, detained for injury to person were neighborhood members like Mike Monroe, Randy Lepper, Darlene McGuire, Judy Duke, and Anna Cisco. These young people would accuse Gertrude of coercing them into helping to kill Sylvia Likens.
No, she did.
But you should be responsible for your own actions.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I
Like,
think
she didn't grab your hand and have you beat her up.
no, but I think there is something to be said about them being kids and
Oh, of
her being the
course.
adult,
Yeah.
but
Well, of
not that,
course.
I mean, they were old enough to know what they were doing was wrong.
Yeah, they were teenagers.
Yeah.
So Gertrude herself entered a plea of not guilty due to insanity. She is not accountable because she isn't all there, her defense attorney informed the court. There were further children involved, but they were all just too young to be charged. There were further children involved, but they were all just too young to be charged, which is just terrifying.
Yeah.
Gertrude Baniszewski was ultimately found guilty of first-degree murder and given a life sentence on May 19th, 1966, despite her own attorney stating, quote, "In my opinion, she ought to go to the electric chair," unquote. She was not given the death penalty.
Her own attorney said that.
Yep.
Damn. That's awesome.
Yeah. Having given birth to a daughter during the trial, Paula Baniszewski was found guilty of second-degree murder and given a life sentence. And I'm pretty sure I read that her daughter was like given up for adoption.
Gotcha.
Due to the fact that they were children, Richard Hobbs, Coy Hubbard, and John Baniszewski Jr. were all found guilty of manslaughter and handed 2 sentences of 2 to 21 years in jail, which is a weird range.
Yeah, that is really weird.
Just 2 years later, in 1968, all 3 of them received their parole.
Ew.
Gertrude served 20 years in prison. She was guilty without a shadow of a doubt. The autopsy verified what Jenny had told the police. Sylvia Likens had passed away gradually and painfully over a period of months. When Gertrude and Paula were both retired in 1971, Gertrude was once more found guilty. Oh, not retired, retried.
I was like, that they retired from jail. You can do that.
They were retried and they were found guilty again.
Good.
Paula received a 2 to 21 year sentence after entering a guilty plea to the lesser charge of voluntary manslaughter. She once avoided capture despite being recaptured. Paula spent roughly 8 years in prison before being released. She then moved to Iowa, changed her identity, and started working as a teacher's assistant.
Ew, I would not want her around children.
When a caller who wished to remain anonymous in 2012 informed the school system that Paula had previously been found guilty of killing 16-year-old Sylvia Likens, she was fired from her job.
Good.
I'm also pretty sure she got married and had 2 children.
Oh my God. I hope
Yeah.
whoever that caller was followed her around and called at every place she ever worked to tell them.
And you know what? Like the same thing happened with Carla Homolka, Paul Bernardo's
Mm,
wife. She
mm,
changed her name, moved to like Quebec or something, and then someone pointed her out when she was picking her kid up from school
damn.
because she had changed her name.
How
Oh,
does one just change their name?
you just go to the like the place, the
I know, but like
search.
you're still, I don't know, like there's still like a paper trail of who you were, right? But I guess you don't have to tell people that. Yeah, okay, never mind. That's a
Yeah,
stupid question.
you can just change your name legally,
Yeah,
right?
never mind.
Like my name is still Jessica Wheeler on some of my government documents because I didn't legally change my name. I just kind of changed it to Jessica Thompson when I got married.
But here's my question.
Sure.
Even if you legally change your name, when your job goes to do a background check,
Well, maybe her job didn't do a good enough background check. It was probably like what, the 80s,
yeah,
right?
still you think they
80s,
would, being
early
that she worked with
90s.
kids.
Yeah, but the stuff wasn't as in depth as it is now. So if it
Yeah,
was like late 80s, early 90s that she was teaching,
yeah,
um, then I don't know. I mean, even 2012, right? Like things weren't as concrete as they are now.
yeah, yeah, that's for sure.
I don't know, man. On December 4th, 1985, Gertrude was granted parole based off of good behavior.
Ew.
Fucking stupid. Gertrude was released despite protests from Jenny and a large group of onlookers.
Lurkers just lurking in the back.
I like that. They were all outside of the prison.
Lurking around.
Yeah. The only relief Jenny received came 5 years after Gertrude's release when the murderess died of lung cancer. Some good news, Jenny wrote to her mother with a copy of the woman's obituary. Damn old Gertrude died. Ha ha ha. I am happy about that. Jenny never blamed her parents for what happened to her sister. She said, my mom was a really good mom. All she did was trust Gertrude. And I'm pretty sure, I honestly thought I put it in here, but I think that like her mom and Gertrude like were friends and they had met somewhere and then it was just, yeah,
Wow.
awful.
Yeah.
A 6 foot tall memorial stands in Willard Park, Indianapolis, in memory of Sylvia Likens.
Hmm.
The Indianapolis Police Department now commit to help children and keeping the city safe for them. The plaque on the memorial reads, quote, I see a light, hope. I feel a breeze, strength. I hear a song, relief. Let them through, for they are the welcome ones, unquote. And since her death, it is now your lawful duty to report child abuse in Indiana.
Good.
Yep. So, yeah, it's my awful story.
That was horrible. I hated it. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. Like I said, when I do true crime, I bring out the big guns and I hate myself for it.
Yeah, that one's a rough one. That one's a really
Yeah.
rough one. Especially because
I
not that like it would be any better or anything, but like she literally did nothing.
yeah,
You know what I
it
mean? Like,
was her dad who was late for the payments. Like, Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, and even then, like, you're late for a payment. It doesn't mean your daughter gets to be tortured.
Yeah,
You know,
I
just
know.
ugh.
Terrible. So, um, yeah, if you know, ow, if you know of anything that's going on, report it.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yep.
I couldn't imagine the type of guilt that I would feel if I knew that I knew something and I didn't say anything and then
And
something
then you
like that
found
happened.
out. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like that
Ugh.
nurse from the school.
Ugh.
Like just terrible.
Yeah.
Anyways, tell me about a ghost,
Okay,
please.
listen to this kick-ass ghost.
Okay.
So I got my sources from. Oh,
Don't
excuse
yawn and
me.
talk.
Excuse me. Sorry. I got
Don't
my.
yawn and talk. I can't edit out your yawn.
Okay, I got my sources from All That's Interesting,
Ooh,
WikiWand,
okay.
and the Morbid Library. So, uh, Zana Haster was 23 when she ran an errand into town in October of 1896 and met 37-year-old blacksmith Erasmus Trout Shoe. So his nickname was Trout.
Cute.
His first name was Erasmus.
Erasmus?
Erasmus.
Oh.
I'm gonna call him Shoe. Despite Mary Jane's
Trout?
objections, that's his nickname.
We'll just call him Trout.
Okay. Um, despite Zana's mother, Mary Jane's objections, the couple married a few weeks later, weeks, and settled into a house near Trout's own blacksmith shop. Unfortunately, we don't know much about what happened between then and 3 months, but she was found dead 3 months later.
What?
Yeah, she was found dead at the foot of the stairs on January 23rd, by Andy Jones, a neighbor boy hired to do chores. So he came in to do some chores and found her body.
Hmm.
Andy dashed to the blacksmith shop while his mother dialed Dr. George Knapp's number. Trout had come home to meet Andy, who arrived to find Zona in her bedroom, dressed for burial in a high neck gown. Um,
She's dead.
yes. Uh, so apparently, um, so I take that part out because I don't understand what I did. So,
Okay.
um, so the doctor came and began to examine the deceased woman, but Trout was acting kind of suspicious. He cried the entire time, which is normal, but when the doctor attempted to examine her neck area, he became upset. So the doctor didn't press the issue further.
What if it was the girl with the green ribbon?
Oh, and he took her ribbon off and her head fell
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
But what I guess this is back in the 1800s, so I guess it makes sense that the doctor's just like, okay, the man said not to, I'm done. But
Okay.
but meanwhile, there were rumors circulating that Zona had given birth to an illegitimate child. Um, and so that could maybe cause some tension. And it came out that Trout had been married twice before. One ended in divorce in 1889, and Lucy, his second wife, died under mysterious circumstances.
Hmm.
Some claim she was pregnant and fell through ice, while others claim she was killed by a brick to the head or poison.
Stop spreading your seed if you don't want babies.
Truth. Speak it, girlfriend.
Like, seriously, why do people have to kill people? For
Act right.
babies, just run away.
Yep. Just leave. Just run
Just
away if you don't want
leave.
them.
Why do you have to kill them?
Yeah.
Ugh.
So Mary Jane, Zona's mother, had never really
Oh,
liked Trout.
MJ.
MJ. She never really liked Trout. And she claimed that her daughter was visiting her as a ghost at night and telling her that she had been right all along not to trust Trout and that he had, in fact, killed her. The ghostly nighttime visits continued, and Mary Jane claimed that she came 4 nights in a row informing her mother about the issues in her marriage. Zona's ghost allegedly said that her husband was angry with her the day she died because she had not prepared meat for his supper. He then brutally attacked her, capping off an abusive marriage, striking her and breaking her neck.
Uh,
Mary Jane woke up and went straight to prosecutor John Alfredo Preston's office, where he actually agreed to look into it, which I was kind of surprised about. Especially back in the 1800s, I would have figured he'd be like, "Oh, you're just a crazy woman."
you're a witch.
Yeah. He decided to go speak with the doctor, and he admitted that he did a less than complete examination. And he did notice bruises on her neck, but when Trout told him not to look any further, he was just like, okay.
Dude,
I know.
you see bruises on a woman's neck and you're like, he's fine.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Fine. That was totally from normal circumstances.
Yeah. He's like, oh,
Really?
okay, cool.
Fucking twat.
At the same time, people in town told Preston, the prosecutor, about Trout's strange behavior at the wake. He wouldn't let anyone near the coffin, and he or someone else, but probably he, had placed a pillow on one side of her head. So you couldn't see the side of her neck.
Oh.
With all of this in mind, Preston decided to have Zana's body exhumed. This time, they did a full autopsy, and Zona's neck had been broken, dislocated between the first and second vertebrae.
Wow.
Her windpipe had been crushed, and she had been strangled.
Wow.
So they went and they arrested Trout, and he was taken to Lewisburg while his trial was pending. During this time, more information about his past came out. His first marriage had ended in divorce, like we said, but his wife said that he was really, really cruel, really abusive and really mean. And again, his second wife died under mysterious circumstances less than a year after they were married.
This was supposed to be lighthearted, Ashley.
As a ghostie, she came and told her mom.
Yeah, but it's not very lighthearted. This man's a killer.
Yeah.
He's a woman killer.
Yeah. And apparently he had begun talking about how he wanted to marry 7 women. That was his goal.
Like at one time.
No, that was his goal in life, was to eventually marry 7 women. And he talked about this in jail.
Have you ever played The Sims?
Years and years and years ago.
I think there's a challenge where you marry a bunch of people. Maybe he's just playing The Sims.
Maybe this is where they got it from, man.
Yeah.
His trial only lasted 8 days. He took the stand in his own defense on the 6th day, and it didn't go well. He apparently rambled on and on about how everyone was out to get him. And Preston's star witness was Mary Jane, her mom. And he limited his questioning to the case's known facts. So he didn't really talk about Mary Jane's ghostly sightings because he thought that might take the trial off the rails and maybe make her not as credible. But
maybe the fact that you're representing yourself. Were you talking about the wrong person? I
No,
thought dude was still on the stand. Is it her mom now?
yeah, I'm sorry. So, like I said, Preston's star witness was Mary Jane.
Oh, I
That's
apologize.
okay. But she did talk about um when her daughter came to visit and like, you know, stuff she had heard and maybe the tumultuous relationship they had, stuff like that. Um, then Trout's lawyer tried to kind of poke holes in her story and try and make her seem like untrustworthy, but it kind of backfired because every time he would ask her and badger her, these her answers never changed. So people were like, "Oh, okay, she's telling the truth because her answers have not changed."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and in that time, the defense did raise the issue of the ghosty, and the judge found it difficult to instruct the jury to disregard the ghost story, but it kind of worked. A lot of people in the community believed it.
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, it was like the 1890s, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that not around the time that it was very like people were really into the occult?
Yeah, probably right around that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did believe it. The jury only deliberated for an hour. And they came back as guilty.
Oh, good.
And after surviving a failed lynching, Trout was sentenced to life in prison and sentenced and sent to the state prison. And I was like, what was this failed lynching?
Literally, how does that happen?
Apparently, the crowd took him out and they wanted to lynch him, but the sheriff stopped him. So
Ah,
I know. So
what a
he got life in
bonehead.
prison. Um, and even though the trial kind of tried to like hide the ghosty aspect, it was already out in public and it became this like huge story. And the legend is that's why he was convicted, was because his wife's ghost came to her mother and said he killed me. And I mean it really was, because Mary Jane, that's why she went to the prosecutor and said, hey, we need to look back into this. Then he started questioning things and asking around. Then he exhumed the body. And
Yeah.
I would like to say she had said that he broke her neck, and that is exactly what happened. So how would she have known that, right?
Literally.
Yes.
Like, oh, gives me
Uh,
the heebs and
I
the jeeps.
know. Trout died on March 13th, 1900 in West Virginia State Penitentiary. It's just that he was the victim of an unknown epidemic, so some kind of sickness that was going around. He was buried in an unmarked grave in a local cemetery. And
Good.
today there's a historical marker along Route 60 that reminds all who travel the winding mountain roads that the Greenbrier ghost assisted in the conviction of her own murderer.
I love that.
Was that pretty awesome? I
I
like that story a lot.
love that. I think it's so creepy
Yeah, yeah, I love it too.
that oh,
And it's just so badass, you know? Love it.
I forgot how to spell Christmas for a second because I have a joke for you.
Ooh, okay.
Because we're in December, right?
We are.
Okay. And so that people don't think I'm an idiot, we are recording this in October.
Yes, because I'm about to
So
have a baby, so we're recording for my maternity leave.
yeah, Recordapalooza. At least the Recordapalooza wasn't as bad this time around.
Yeah.
How many did we do in one sitting? Like 13?
So many. So many. For when last year when Jessica and I were both having a baby. Well, not last year, 2 years ago
2 years
almost.
ago.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. So, all right, what's your
Okay.
joke?
Um, what did Santa say when he stepped into a big puddle?
I don't know what.
It must have rained dear. Um, Where do Santa's reindeer stop for coffee?
Where?
Starbucks.
Ah, I love it.
Um, what's the absolute best Christmas present?
I don't know. I never
A
know any of
bro
these.
a broken drum. You can't beat it.
Ah, I like that one. Oh, that's great. Well,
Okay,
if
I
you
have one more.
oh, okay.
I have one more. What happens if you eat Christmas decorations?
I
You get tinselitis.
don't know. I like that.
I love it so much.
Well, if you want more of us lovely ladies, little ladies, you can find us at on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube.
And if you would like to rate and review us, you can do so on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We
Yay.
love hearing from you guys, and your rates and your reviews really help us get out there. So
Yeah,
please.
we would love it. Thank you so much. And we look forward to bringing you 2 new stories next week.
Bye.
Bye.